Now we go into some spring training stuff. Here is we're so close to all of that. We've got three different topics here to kind of round us out for spring training. Your top questions, what are you wondering going into the spring? What do what do you need to see? What do you wonder about there on and so forth? Uh, your prospects, what prospects you want to watch? Obviously, the Mariners have a lot of good position player prospects. They've got some nice pitching ones as well. Who you want to watch for when we get either the webcasts or the actual broadcasts and the big leaguers, because as we've talked about, there are some questionable ones on this Seattle roster. So um, I guess I'll kind of start with the questions. Uh, how healthy is this bullpen? Because, as much as I mentioned the Matt Brash rehab comments from Jerry and the Gregory Santos rehab comments, like I think the talent for this bullpen is through the roof. It just you have to be available. So that's a question that I've got there. Um, just that sort of aspect of things. Do we get another Luke Raley successful season? And that kind of goes into the big leaguer part, but that's my question. Like so often, Brittany and I talked about Luke Raley, right? And well, we were asked, why don't you remember Luke Raley at first base? And I was like, well, he can't hit lefties. Um, I don't know. He was a guy that was productive, right? He had a good friendship with Cal Raleigh, so there's a good bond there. And I guess that leads into my last question. Who sticks out as your backup catcher? And is it Mitch Garver again? Like that's there's not a lot of great candidates. And I'm not sure how I feel about entrusting Mitch Garver to that workload for a large amount of the season again. So last time I started with Brittany. Jake, I'll go with you for your questions about the spring training. And then Brittany, I'll have you pick up.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I think my biggest question is like, what does the chemistry look like in the outfield? From this kind of Julio, Randy Victor outfield in its first full season. Um, One of the things we've seen with Julio a lot is I don't know if it's with him personally, but it's a lack of communication in the outfield. We've seen a lot of near collisions over the past few
Oh,
years out there. If this is going to be our outfield, then our outfield is certainly our best hitting core, and probably our best defensive core as well. I want to see them come together as a unit, right? I want to see them use the spring training for that. Um, I think my other big question is what does Polanco look like at third? I'm probably stealing from you, Brittany.
No, no, you're
No.
not.
Okay, good. Because like I am terrified, but I'm also like grotesquely interested. Um, but I know we can't put too much stock onto it, right? Because like Charles, you brought up Eugenio earlier, and like he had a terrible
uh,
defensive spring training 22.
mm.
But then he came out and played great for the rest of the year. But he was also a career third baseman, so we'll see what happens. We know how hard it is to go from third to second because they tried to make Toro a second baseman, and that was a bad idea.
Ah, yes, that's
Who
right.
has an Abraham Toro jersey?
Mm.
Anyway,
I'm gonna bring him up every week. Just you watch.
Just start wearing it, dude.
I got it. I got it right here. Bam. Anyway, yeah. So they tried to make this guy a second baseman from a third baseman. We'll see how that goes. We'll see how it goes the other way, right? So I think those are my biggest questions. Or what does Polanco look like in the infield, and how does the outfield look like as a unit? What's their chemistry?
Yeah. No, good. I don't have any more polo thoughts. I think I need to put that one to the side for a bit. I did have a similar question about the bullpen. Kind of came to mind. Backing up really quick. I have a million questions. Let's be honest. We could spend an hour alone on the infield. Part of This too is you're probably not going to get a whole ton of answers in spring training.
Yeah.
Spring training can be super misleading, and I just always caution folks, don't put too much stock into what you see in spring training. The things that you want to look for are how a guy shows up to camp physically. Is he healthy? Is he in shape? And has he completely redesigned his swing over the off season? And look a little less at stats and outcomes and stuff like that. Anyway, back to the bullpen. I had a similar question because I started thinking about the last couple of years and how they have leaned incredibly heavily every year on primarily one reliever. And then that reliever the next day or the next year, their arm explodes. So in
Oh,
2022, it was Penn Murphy. Penn Murphy threw 69 innings out of the bullpen. Nice. It was the most in that year's bullpen. And then what happened the next year? He was out. He got hurt. 2023, it was Matt Brash. Threw 70 innings in the bullpen. It was the most. And what happened the next year? His arm exploded. Last year, you guys already know the answer to this because I kind of gave it away, but I went to go look and see who threw the most innings because I thought it was Andres Munoz, and it was not. I should have known better. It was our buddy Trent Thornton. He in 2024 threw a whopping 72 innings last year. So that is surprising to me. And then it's concerning for me for a couple of reasons. One, is he going to explode this year? And two, is that sustainable from Trent Thornton? Now, you look at his baseball savant page, and regardless of what you thought your eyes might have seen last year, he grades out well. And, he had a 1.13 whip, is how he ended the year. 3.61 ERA, 72 innings pitched. He carried their bullpen for what it was, and their bullpen needed help. It wasn't good enough last year. We know that, but
Yeah.
for what it was, he carried it. So that is not going to be sustainable this year because his arm's either going to explode or he'll regress a little bit, I'd imagine. So what is that all going to look like? I think Matt Brash being back in April is super ambitious. I would be shocked if he's back in April. Gregory Santos, I think, is still just a giant question mark until
yep.
we see him consistently. I think
Hmm.
no one has any idea what he can bring and what he's capable of. So there's a whole bunch of signings that were made. The pile, as we call it. I'm gonna be really watching that really closely to see, okay, do we have the next Paul Sewald here? So yeah, I think that's probably the biggest question currently, just because I am tired of asking questions about the infield.
Well, the reason that I have my glove on is
I
that
was
you
wondering.
mentioned how a guy comes into spring training, and it just made me wonder last year about the reports about Luis Urias, how he couldn't get a goddamn ball across the
Oh,
infield. And then I
yeah,
was like, that isn't really. And then I saw him in spring training in a game, and I said, Jesus Christ,
yeah.
I can play third. Shit.
And
I
then
can
they
play the
only gave him
outfield,
like
I
what,
think.
10 plate appearances because of that?
Oh
Not
my
because of that, but just
God.
like the next year.
That was terrible.
Really
Oh
felt like
my
Scott kind of forgot he existed, and I think that's for the best.
yeah.
Rip
Well,
Scott,
Scott's
by the
with
way.
a team that actually wins semi consistently, even though they don't do much in the playoffs now.
Gone but
So
not forgotten.
in the arms of Scotty Boy. Yeah, all very valid questions. Like, I think I need to create a graphic, and it's just hashtag the pile, and it's all of the relievers that have come
Yeah.
out of like random obscurity for the Mariners. Um,
I love the pile. The pile's the
Yeah.
best thing we got.
hashtag the pile.
Hashtag the pile.
Um, more guys who could come out of hashtag, well, not well, one of my guys for prospect. Well, no. Okay. Anyway, we're gonna go to prospects. Prospects. I don't I started this and I got kind of giddy talking, like thinking about this when I sent you guys the show notes. Um, because one of my prospects I'm excited to watch in spring training is Michael Arroyo. Again, we don't talk about him in a lot. A lot of places, prospect wise, don't talk about him a lot. Hey, shut me up, man. Like, go out there and again, he's probably still several years out from touching T-Mobile Park dirt, but I don't know. I've seen crazier things happen. Another one that's sort of interesting, and I don't think anybody else really that besides the sickos that will look at these lists for like invitations or that keep track of the Tacoma Rainiers is Rylan Thomas. I mean, he was like decently regarded in the Met system when the Mariners acquired him in the Ryan Stanek trade. And he had decent numbers with the Rainiers. Um, I don't imagine he'll see much time in T-Mobile Park this season just because of what the Mariners can do outfield wise and what they already have in place, like Jake mentioned. In terms of production wise, I kind of forgot about the running into each other thing that you mentioned though. That's a good point. Like that's just
Every year without
mind-boggling
fail.
and so dangerous. Um,
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
oh yeah, no, like I will always like you're not supposed to make noise in the press box, but I go ooh whenever it gets too close, and like the
Hmm.
old people will turn to me and I'm like, hey man, they almost ran into each other. That's a big man, and
Yeah.
particularly Julio. Like Julio, big man. Randy, not so big. Scary collision.
Problems. Yeah.
Um, Yeah, Rylan Thomas, Michael Arroyo, and maybe it's kind of cheap to throw a kind of a top guy in position wise, but Laz, like you
Yeah.
had the slow start in Everett. What do you show this year? How do you well? And then it's a funny thing because you'll go from spring in Arizona to back to Everett in the beginning of the year, which
Yeah.
it's not a welcome climate. And then um Hunter Cranton's fun, right? I want to see Hunter Cranton more. Like, I gotta watch more Hunter Cranton games. Um, and I'm gonna leave my hashtag the pile thing because he's not. You can't include prospects in the pile. That doesn't count,
No, no.
right? So I have a the pile one that I almost got overzealous and talked about, but that's for big leaguers. Brittany, you prospects, then Jake, and then I can get to my pile guy.
Yeah. I
Pile.
wish I had something super I don't know, a niche guy to talk about, but it's Cole Young. Sorry. Sorry if
Not
that's
Ben.
boring, but it's Cole Young because of the egregious position that this baseball team is currently in.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
that in terms of prospects, yeah, that's the guy that I'm paying attention to the most, other than Ben Williamson, who I am
Okay.
always my baseline is
I
I
was concerned.
love watching him play baseball. Love watching him play baseball. So that's always a given. But um it'll be Cole Young. I'm really curious to see how he shows up to camp. Has he put on any muscle? He probably needs to. Is he carrying himself in a manner that says I could play at T-Mobile Park in 2025? All those things because boy, this is the position that they are in is basically they've said, all right, we've got a stopgap until Cole Young gets here. So I am anxiously awaiting that.
Hmm.
And I hope to be blown away by what we see from him. And if I'm not, you know what? You sure can't blame the kid. He has really been put in a difficult position. There is a lot of pressure on him, none of which is his fault. So, God, I hope he can find a way to ignore that and ignore any of the noise and pressure and just go play ball and have fun and hope the rest speaks for itself.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I agree completely.
Hell
I'm kind of
yeah.
in the same boat where like I also wish that I had someone to talk about, but for me it's Laz. I want to see Laz not like for the stats or the flashy home runs that I'm sure a lot of people are like, oh boy, yay, about, but I want to see his swing decisions. I want to see what he does when he gets a good look at some, MLB or like top level minors style breaking balls. Like I want to see
Mm.
what kind like it's the first real look about what kind of eye that he might have, like a
Mhm.
real proper MLB level eye. Because with the way that his game looks like it's developing, if he can become the walk machine uh, who occasionally hits a dinger, I think that's the dream, right?
Mm.
For what we want out of Laz. So I'm really looking forward to seeing, what kind of eye he develops, especially going forwards in the future beyond spring training when he goes back to Everett and he starts seeing stuff that, is comparatively weaker, right? From those pitchers. How does he do when he goes back there? Does he start lighting the world on fire there when he sees, if you find success in spring training? Which, again, like you said, we don't really want to look at stats too much. We want to look at process, approach, and physicality.
That's the big thing, and that's why like I was thinking about this throughout the show, like looking at my little notepad and like looking ahead to the big leaguer thing. I'm like, care what Julio does in spring. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter. Like it, he could I'm sure I could look back into his spring stats and like he just needs to start the season properly. Like
Yes.
unfortunately, he could look great in spring training. It doesn't translate yet.
Can
Maybe
we
it
take
does
away
this year.
all his calendars and tell him that April is September?
It's actually July, Julio.
July.
Like
Yes.
right
Yes.
now it's July.
Hmm.
Get going. Yeah.
You've
So
you've
like
been in a coma for 5 months. Sorry to say.
you're not actually in Phoenix with Kevin Durant. I'm
Hmm.
sorry. It's like so
So
um yeah. So yeah, I that's an important thing to mention as well. Is it's like unless you perform really terribly as a pitcher or you strike out every single time as a hitter, like which God forbid. Oh, let me just knock on wood for that because I don't want to get any demons with this Mariners team. Um, yeah, it's like they'll be looking at other things typically. I hardly think like the staff like that evaluates talent look strictly at their game situations only. It's a combination of things, right? So, you know, anyway, yeah, I mean again, it's just kind of funny because yeah, we're all going to be watching the Cole Youngs, the Colt Emersons, the Harry Fords, Laz, obviously. I'd love to see Logan Evans. I'd love to see Brandon Garcia as well, who doesn't necessarily get as talked about as much as maybe Logan does, but those are obvious picks. Big leaguers, pile time, baby. Um,
Woo!
I talked about this. I believe it was Jake when it was Jake and I on the show. Uh, we talked about our kind of pile guy then.
Oh boy.
And then the next day he got DFA'd. Austin Kitchen's back, baby. We're cooking in
Woo!
the kitchen with Austin.
that
I
happened to
cannot
me
wait.
too. It's Tyler J. My gosh.
Did he? Oh,
Is
that's
he
right.
coming
He's
back?
not.
He got picked up.
Nope. He's
He,
not on the invites.
Rip.
no.
They got him.
So yeah, I mean, Austin Kitchen, man. Like, what is that? What does that look like? You could go with Shintaro, and obviously he'll be fun to watch, just him pumping heaters down in Arizona. But um,
That's the dream.
that's obviously one, and maybe this kind of goes into the catching situation as well. Jacob Nottingham, you finally have ended up with the Mariners again. Like, what are you able to do there, and what does that look like, right? And that's kind of because again, like the infield, you could say J.P. Crawford because he had a down year offensively last year, and whether that's injury or whatever. But again, spring training just doesn't give me enough to worry about the regular season with. Like if J.P. Crawford shows up to spring training and he looks like a stick and he can't hit anything, then sure I'll be concerned. But like if he just gives me middling numbers, I don't care, right? So I think I'm largely going to stick with my pile guy in Austin Kitchen, and then the Jacob Nottingham, and see what he gives up because like they got that Nick Raposo guy in the offseason. I mean, he hasn't really done much as well. Jacob Nottingham at least has spent some decent time at the MLB level, obviously enough to get passed around by the Mariners and Brewers. So those are my guys at the big league level to watch. Jake, we'll go with you. Brittany, you will finish us out with the big leaguers.
I want Jacob Nottingham to be good because there's a lot of Robin Hood, Sheriff of Nottingham stuff that you could do if you like
Yeah.
catches people stealing, for example.
Yeah.
Come on, there's some fun writing stuff in there. But I think I'm watching Blake Hunt You're talking about earlier about like what are we looking at for backup catcher? I think
Yeah.
I want to see Blake looking good. I'm watching Ryan Bliss too. Bliss, bless his heart, wants to be a Seattle Mariner. Has for a while. So I just really want him to be good because this is a vibes-based team, and I think he's got good vibes. Um, and you know what? Let's look at the new guys, right? Let's look at Miles Mastroboni and Donovan Solano
Oh,
now because now we're just going for funny names instead of good baseball players. But maybe they'll be good.
Is
You
that a
know?
big leaguer? Is Miles a big leaguer? Is that what we're
Ryan
calling him?
Divish had him in his opening day roster.
I mean, yeah, but we also had Tommy Listell as an opening day
Uh,
DH.
Tommy, love Babe Ruth.
We had, gosh, we had
Friendly
Steven Souza
face.
Jr. in the major league roster in 22, which is the
And
playoffs
block
that
that
year.
out, Jacob.
Yeah,
Block that out. Thank you.
Wait, who? Say that again.
Steven Souza Jr.
Oh, yeah. I had also blocked that
in
out. That's why
22.
I was confused at what you just said.
That was a playoff team, buddy. So you know what? I believe in I believe in
Take
Miles
that, liberal.
Mastroboni.
Oh boy, you
Oh man,
can't
we
get
made
through
it.
that with a straight face, can you?
No, I can't. We made Souza mad like during spring training at Lookout Landing because there was some tweet that was like we said if he is getting significant time, something has gone wrong with the team, which
Mm-hmm.
was
I remember
correct
this.
and
Yep.
was correct when it happened. But he like uh did an interview later where he talked about all the haters in the media, and it was like just us.
Yeah.
So you know what? I love that, and I love being proven right as a hater.
Yeah.
True.
But I'm I'm a Mastroboni lover. I believe. Charles, I'm so sorry. I believe in Donovan Solano specifically. Surely they will be good baseball players. It can't all go wrong, right? It
Don't
can't
call
all
me
go wrong.
Shirley.
It sure can.
It sure can.
It sure
Without
can.
hesitation, just
You know what? I'm actually gonna push back on what you said, Charles. I'm gonna say JP Crawford. Um, and I'm gonna be watching his swing decisions
Hell
ooh,
yeah.
okay.
because
That's
I
fair.
Tim
think
Cook.
I think that was where he really struggled last year because he is not an exit velo guy. He is not a hard hit rate guy. He is a work the count and work your walks and then capitalize on mistakes guy. And looking at 2023 JP and 2024 JP, the strikeout rate it jumped last year, not necessarily significantly. It was up 3%, which is up, but that's not huge. But where I really start to see a fuller picture of JP is his swing rate went up, his whiff rate went up, and his first pitch swing rate was up 5.8%. So that
Down the
just paints
pond.
a picture of a guy who was swinging a lot more and missing a lot more. And that's not his game. So I'm going to be really interested to see how he comes to the plate and what his approach is. I don't know if injury impacted things and if that snowballed for him. And he was just trying to do too much because all of a sudden he, is on the injured list in April and he's out a month and he feels like he's behind. It's such a mental game that that's a really easy thing to do is get in your head and you're starting to swing at crap. So I'm really interested to see what he looks like because he is a huge vital piece. They cannot afford to have a hole at shortstop. They have holes at second, half a hole at first, and arguably a potential hole at third. They can't have one at shortstop. So yeah, I'll say JP. And then I'll also throw Victor Robles in there because the big question with Robles is that BABIP going to hold up? It's probably not. He's probably going to regress this year. I'll be interested to see if he kept all the swing changes he made. Looking at his swing with the Nationals versus what he did with the Mariners, it's almost like looking at a completely different hitter in the box. So does he make some off-season changes and look a little different, try to do something different, or is he sticking with it because it worked? I'm excited to see Robles, and he's just so fun to watch. And he's also my grandmother's favorite player now. Julio is probably going to be heartbroken to hear that, but my grandmother declared Victor Robles her new favorite player, so I'll pay extra attention to him for her.
I'll tell Julio that. We'll see how he feels. Um, yeah, no, the JP thing is definitely like it makes sense because like you touched on, you need him to be. He just can't be what he was last year, I
You
think, is
can't,
the thing.
no.
Like if he's even average, I think you'll begrudgingly take that, right? Like I don't you just kind of like I talked about with the Kraken second year. I don't think you can expect to see the driveline JP from 2023 again. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
that's something that you can just, all right, we're gonna do everything that offseason we did, and we're gonna do it again. And because maybe he already did that last offseason, and so yeah, and then Victor Robles has come up a lot, at least in some of the content creators for the Mariners. Like, is he going to regress? And so, and some people are already expecting a little bit of a regression already. So, yeah, that'll be fascinating. I mean, I'd say then you've got Luke Raley in your back pocket, but he's already playing first base. So, like, what a world we live in, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of it. That's what we've got at this point. It's fascinating to look at this roster. Cody Bolton's still around. Did you know that?
He is.
Good for
Yeah.
him.
Cody Bolton, Jackson Kowar. We still have no idea what's going on with him. Someone like in the string of things that we talked to Jerry about, he was not on there and he was not mentioned.
Austin
So
Voth is going to Japan. Did I read that correctly?
yeah, I don't
He's gonna rock
I
the
don't
boat. The vote.
I don't know why. Like, I'm sure he
Yeah,
could have been back here,
he
right?
is headed to Japan.
He said, "Nah, dog, I'm gonna be a Marine." He saw the different contracts, and one of them is the Marines and one is the Mariners, and he got confused. He's
Yeah,
guys, you gotta
I think
help
he
them
wanted to
out.
win
Easy.
baseball games. You know.
Oh, well, yeah, with Roki, I don't know if that's the same team, but I think Sasaki left a Marines team. Um, he needed to fill the gap somehow.
Yeah.
Austin voted his buddy. Um, yeah, I
I'm
don't
not
know.
too broken up about that.
This, no, nah, it's fine. I just kind of confused about it. So yeah, I mean, hey, by the time we talk to you next, we'll have Ryan Divish videos of the bullpens,
Shaky chain
shaking
link
them,
fence.
shaking. Hopefully, his fingers not in any of it.
Oh my
Um,
god.
we'll actually have like that stuff to talk about, but I
Hmm.
can almost guarantee you the comment that Jerry made about hiding if it becomes available is not true. So I will guarantee it right now. We will not have any significant updates in terms of roster to talk about next week.
I hope you
I
just
can
jinxed
I
it.
agree.
I didn't get that close like Jake did. So
I don't know
yeah,
how close
man.
is too close. That's always my problem.
Okay. We're done here. That's gonna wrap us up for the February 10th edition of Mariner Mondays. At least pitchers and catchers happens in a few days.
Woo.
The lunacy
Oh,
will continue. I think our lunacy and delirium will continue all season, but at least
yeah.
we have the ball bases to look at,
The beatings
as
will
we're
continue
delirious.
until morale improves.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, until we see you next time. Take care of yourselves. Be well. Don't make your lip explode like I did through 2 show recordings today.
Actually, do
Um,
it. It seems really funny.
do whatever you can to make your yeah, screwed me up, Jake. Do whatever you can to make today a great day.
Hey, Charles.
Hey, Jen.
Hey, how about those Zaps?
Oh, I'm excited.
I know. Where are you going to watch all those away games, though?
Away games. Huh. I was thinking of coming here since, after all, Rough and Tumble is the home of Circling Seattle Sports.
I love that idea. Hope to see y'all here.